It's afternoon here. I'm in a little town called Fishkill, just in at the threshold of a retreat that I'm hosting with a dear colleague and co-thinker. Her name is Lara from Brazil, and this will start tomorrow. So I'm already doing all these things with very dear people. But it's good to have you back for the penultimate. Not quite, right? Way, not it's kind of the penultimate, but also not quite, because we have recordings that we're going to share with you. I've already done a recording with Professor Erin Manning, and this will be available soon. For those of you who have been writing me about the missing session 3, that's available now. So the series is complete. And what my sister and I were speaking about earlier was on April 3rd, we will be having, for those of you who would like to join us, we'll be having a day's worth of gatherings and activities in Minnesota. And it's called Love, Grief, and Fugitivity, a day of speculative prayer. And it's just, think of it as a grief ritual in a city that has suffered and has had to bend under the weight of marching boots and masked agents, right? I will no longer be able to avoid going to Minnesota. I've been told earlier, just okay, you can just keep away for now because it's kind of dangerous. But there are some things we have to do. And so I will be there with my siblings and Professor Karine, the head of the Department in American Studies, and the Kofi Annan Institute, and all of us in the beautiful campus will be hosting the public to think, to pray, to cry, to eat, to cook together. There will be a taster. Is it called a taster or a teaser? I think it's a teaser, not a taster.
Easy.
A teaser of about 15 minutes or 20 minutes of our new movie, the movie that I did with my brothers Resma Menakem and Orland Bishop called Three Black Men. So the public will be able to see that as well. Resma will be there. I told him he has no choice. He has to show up. In case you don't know Resma, he's a dear brother who wrote my grandmother's hands. Yes. Yeah, so it's going to be a wonderful day. And then on April 7th, uh, I will have my uh, inaugural public lecture as professor um, in on campus, and it's about the United States. It's about what we're seeing now. It's about freedom. And if you're around, if you can join us, then please join us. Wait, did I miss anything?
No, yeah, so the April 7th event takes place at 4:30 at McAllister on campus, McAllister, and it's open to public and free. So if you're in the area, please come by um, and then invite your friends. Yeah. So Ease, are you talking about Altar for the April 3rd event?
The in Minnesota one.
Yeah, yeah,
The
they're both
Minnesota
in
one.
Minnesota, but April 3rd is the community
Yes, sibling, please.
ritual. Yeah, I'm
Put
sure
up a
they're.
candle. Yeah, yeah. Your prayers are welcome. Thank you.
Well, what
Thank you,
on April
please.
7th will be in the Friend's house on Grand Avenue. The tentative itinerary says things will start up at 11:45 in the morning.
Right,
Yeah, come on over.
right. Um, and the someone asked if I will be at the Long Now Foundation in San Francisco. Yes, I will be there. I'll be at the Long Now Foundation. And if you're in the area in Maine in June, then please come as I give the commencement address for the graduates in that beautiful college. It's called the College of the Atlantic. And so if you're in the area, or if you live in Maine, then let's meet there. That's it. Wait, shall we?
real quick,
That's
it's someone
okay.
asked about streaming. Yes, we will. We're actually working out the details for streaming we have to
The
get a
seventh for the
yeah,
seventh.
on
The
the
stream. Okay.
7th, not the 3rd. On the
Okay.
7th, we need our IT's help, and we will also email out all the information.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Can we all unmute ourselves and say hello for the penultimate time in this linearity of streamings and all that? Can we just do that?
Hello.
Good
Hello,
morning.
everyone.
Oh,
Good
Hello, hello
morning.
everyone. How are you?
Everyone,
Yeah.
Hey,
top
hello,
morning.
hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
sweetie.
Yay,
Long
Sander.
time. Looping
Thanks.
love. Looping love.
Hostings.
hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. 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 So, thank you for joining us again. I've had a very humbling series of days since our last conversation. Um, um, People have written to me and told me how much this class has meant to them, and I'm grateful. I usually don't talk about stuff like this, but it's been very moving to hear the things that I've been hearing and that people are developing spin-off um, reading and watching events so that they can stay with the explorations here. I'm grateful for that. And I do not take that lightly. So I wanted to start out with gratitude for the for not for the feedback I'm receiving, but the for the times that even as these times get hard, I was just telling someone that the president of the United States made it incredibly difficult for me to come to the United States. Now it's making it incredibly difficult for me to leave the United States. Like the not just the Iran war, but the TSA agents. So we're not can't even it's it's one of the most consequential moments in American history, I think. And it's horrifying to see what's happening. And yet, in spite of all of these things, in spite of war, and explosions and missiles and genocide and pain, there are still things to do. And there are still things being done. And we're gathering in different ways and we're opening ourselves in different ways. And sensibility has never been sterile. And enchantment has never been in short supply. That's the lie of modernity, that enchantment is in short supply. But it hasn't been and will never be in short supply. So we are exploring the beautiful fugitive pathways out of the sensibilities that trap us into the performance of the normative, of the neurotypical, of the political, of the spotlight and the searchlight. We are seeking and sensing the larger sanctuary space that is the parapolitical, which is not a bypass or stepping away from or an excuse or a justification. It is availability told differently. It's the strangeness of our bodies. It's the ways that ancestrality and intensity and density and power has never been fully defined and can never be fully articulated, which suggests to me that there are other ways to be here in the crisis. And this is not the first time that the world ends, right? This is not the first time. This is not the first time. So today I wanted to do something different. I'll just tell in a way that I feel that we should have a conversation rich session today. Let's talk. Let's have some prompts and go into some spaces. I do have some things to say to just wrap up the series on harm that I started to explore in the last session, and I would just wrap that up eventually towards the end, but I want to privilege our conversations and just some dialogic moments between us. So the preparatory stuff is light, and the emergent stuff will be heavy. That's how we'll do today. Okay. With that, I just want to feel maybe one, two, three voices just to sense the field and feel what you are sensing or asking or where you're calling in from or how it is outside of your window or inside your homes, what it is like to be where you are right now. How are you showing up? Just at the very most, three voices. How are you showing up? What's emerging for you? What is disturbing? What is enlightening? Did you wake up with a dream today that might inform and invite everyone else here? Maybe a message can be distilled from your dreams, or maybe something that you encountered is wanting to be shared. Okay? My dear sister Anna Suya. Unmute. You're good.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and happy tomorrow if you're down under. Um, I love this question, and you asked several possibilities, and several things came to mind. But the very
Right.
first thing that I woke up with was a heaviness that we are literally watching the murder of Cubans, and there's no bells ringing, there's no alarms, there's no outrage. I mean, they're being starved to death. They're being frozen. They're being blacked out. They are being for doing nothing, just for existing and
That's for
breathing.
existing. Yes.
And the pattern of attacking independent, minding their own business countries of people of color is so striking. Like and Haiti's been under attack since they beat the French. There's not one day capitalism and imperialism has not punished them for being black and badass.
Yeah, yeah.
And Cuba's the same.
Yes.
Not one day since they got free have they not been attacked.
Yes.
And I've been waiting for Russia that promised to go and give them oil so they can eat. How amazed and how that America has found such a way to even stop Russia from getting there. Every other country in the Caribbean, every other country in Latin America that wanted to rescue them or be there for them has been highly fined, has been threatened with bombing. I mean, just wickedness to the point where Ecuador got rid of the Cuban ambassador and closed the embassy because America was so vicious in its attack on Ecuador if they support Cuba.
Mm.
And there's no noise. There's no bells. And these are literally black and brown people starving to death for just breathing.
Yes.
And that's such a mirror for what's happening to Black people in this country, what's happening to Latin people in this country. It's a mirror for what's happened to Yemen, who's like, I'm not taking your shit, America. So they fight. You have the audacity to fight back. We're going to bomb you. And Yemen says, keep it coming. I don't care.
Right.
Every country that has the audacity to say, no, you're wrong. We're going after. And I know they're going after Traore. I know he's next. They haven't figured out a way to get in there because his people are so loyal. He's had over 30 death attack. What do you call it? Coup attempts. No, the assassination attempts. But his people are so loyal. They're like, you know what they offered me? $10 million to kill you. They're just coming up saying, we will not. So what's the best way to get to Burkina Faso is to go through Nigeria. So what did they do? Bomb Nigeria. Creating, we have to rescue you from the Muslims or somebody. It's some non-existent thing. So this is if you dare to say goodbye France, like Traore, goodbye Europeans, goodbye, we will build our own country from scratch and do it better than you did. You have to be killed because we can't have that idea spreading. We can't have other people can be uppity. Oh, no. We have to squash that. So that's what I woke up with this morning, despite the fact that no, I'm just sad. I'm looking for reasons to smile and to have hope. And these conversations And like as far as I can get right now, just being in a conversation with people from so many different places and belief systems and having this conversation gives me hope. But I
Yes.
can't find it too many places, because we have ICE agents getting paid a lot of money to do absolutely nothing in the airports except hassle and
Yes.
arrest people minding their goddamn business. And TSA workers who are trained, they're not getting paid. I mean, just the absurdity of it, it's just exponential.
Yes.
So that's what's there.
Sister, thank you. Thank you for that. Us Traore is not just the target on the African continent. Nigeria is there's plenty of oil to go around, especially right now. And even though the United States has broken out its reserves, its oil reserves to, ameliorate the situation with the Strait of Hormuz and oil flow, there is a tendency and a desire to spread empiric tentacles across the globe right now.
You
It's
said
never been
vampire?
so.
You said
It's
vampire?
vampiric is also nice, but I said empiric,
Yeah.
but vampiric is also quite appropriate
They
to
go
what's
together.
happening now. It's
They go
sucking
together.
the extractivism.
Sucking out.
Yes, yes. Both of them should be read together. I'm reminded of I'm reminded of the observations of Achille Mbembe, Cameroonian philosopher, when he spoke about speaking and conversing and reading together with Michel Foucault on biopolitics when he coined this term necropolis. It's
Yes.
it's the governability that dishes out death, right? Some kinds of bodies are dispensable. Some bodies are meant to be killed, right?
Mhm.
In this arrangement. Cubans, you could dip into a country and steal another president, right? And it's not even a question of right and wrong or good versus evil. It's the it's the hubristic allotment of right and entitlement to coming together with the idea that one is eternally the policeman of the globe to dip into a country and steal that president or decide how democracy works in others, right? And say that because of our safety, we're going to treat the entire world in this way. It's a very dangerous time we're in, and it's the necropolis. It's the necropolis.
So
And
that is
yeah,
dead on what's happening. Dead,
yeah,
dead, dead on.
yeah,
Sorry to say, literally dead on too.
yeah. In order to preserve the prestigious interiority and gilded borders of the citizen subject, which almost always looks like the default of the white body, right? Which is no fault of the white body. This is not some kind of the white body is to blame. No, it's that whiteness as a discretization of power, as an assortment mechanism or a sorting out mechanism, how bodies come to matter, right? It's not reducible to phenotypic appearance, of course, but it uses as its avatar white bodies. And it says, this is the citizen subject. Even that perch is being lost right now, but this is the default. And so everything that is away from this default starts to become more and more pathological, especially as the Anthropocene throws its worst at our systems. As climate change happens and pandemics happen, we're losing the we're losing the bandwidth we once had and the guardrails. So we're rushing into the tiniest spaces we can. We're trying to make room. And I think our work is to make sanctuary. Now,
Mm.
making room is not making sanctuary. Making room is fighting for power as it is presently articulated. Making sanctuary is noticing that power is stranger than we think. And I think that is why we're here. That is why we're here, sister.
That's my only hope.
Mm-hmm,
This is a
mm-hmm,
room of
mm-hmm,
sanctuary,
mm-hmm,
and may He
mm-hmm.
go out and multiply them. And yes, we
Yes,
can do it
yes,
without BIOS guidance. And we have to
Yes.
remember that we are enough to do it wherever we are, because we need sanctuary cities and sanctuary chapels and sanctuary bodies and sanctuary kitchens and sanctuary everything's
Yes,
everywhere.
yes. Even beyond the notion of safety, sanctuary is playing with the monster. Sanctuary is playing with habits of perception. Sanctuary is allowing our bodies to become stranger. Sanctuary is straying away from the neurotypicality of lines that persist and the geometries of experience that tell us this is how to respond to power. We have to get lost, and getting lost is the most emancipatory politics that I feel that I feel wants to be materialized right now. But thank you, Anasia. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Julie.
Hi. Hi,
Hi, Julie.
everyone. I was lucky enough to be a part of hearing you the other day and all the other panelists at the sand event. And I had a dream that night after the sand event.
Hmm.
And I wanted to share it here because maybe it has something for all of us. In the dream, I was traveling with two other friends down a stream that was like the river of time. And there were different branches on this stream and different canals. But at one point in the dream, we passed a very steep ravine, and there was a really heavy, violent animal sacrifice that was happening, a sacrifice of goats and rams. And I understood while I was in the dream that there was something about this where the people, the men who were sacrificing the animals, um, felt like this was for the good of the hunt, for the good of the providence.
Hmm.
But it was very disturbing. It was viscerally violent, and even in the dream, it was being woven in that along with the backdrop of the witch hunts and the wars around religion and slavery and the colonization of indigenous people all over the world, we also have this here in the fabric, and it's at least an abstraction of let me see if I can find my notes on this. It was not stoppable, and there was so much
Hmm.
violence to it, and Paleolithic time and hunter-gatherer cultures didn't really have this kind of came with the accumulation of grain and animals and who has more and who's allowed to have more,
Hmm.
and so it was kind of an extension of violence for sustenance, but also a disturbing and violent abstraction of it. And I don't come out of it
Hmm.
with any conclusions, but I just felt like this was a place maybe to bring and to share this for all of
Good.
us. Yeah, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm going to let that just land and simmer. I don't want to boundary it or border it so quickly with commentary, except to just invite people to sit with it. Thank you. That has a lot of resonance for me, and we can have a conversation about this shortly. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Mama Brenda, you're muted, by the way.
She's
Yeah.
coming. She's here. Hi. Yeah. And first of all, I am so glad, Dr. Bio, that you did not interpret Julie's dream. Thank
Yes.
you for just letting it sit. And I
Yes.
want to say that it's so interesting, Anasuya. I have struggled with this grief and having many issues happening with my elder family's health. I've struggled
Hmm.
with this grief, and this morning I woke up not full of grief
Hmm.
and I had had a session with I do the meditations with Dr. Rick Hansen, and he is a neuropsychologist. He has a wonderful book called Neurodharma, so he's a Buddhist psychologist, but he has started a group called the Global Compassion Network. And he was again emphasizing what we're doing here, what everyone that I know of is interested in, and what, as I said in the chat, Dr. Bayo, what my people, ancestors of enslaved people on this continent, have always done. We've always had to make cells. We've always had to make, well, what you say about the Ghostlights, that we've always had to make rivulets and streams, Julie, in between all of this other stuff. And the sense that everywhere I hear, in the building that my husband and I are living in Philadelphia right now, they are have started a group, called Philadelphians for Democracy. And it's like
Mhm.
a lot of people who are old. We're meeting regularly. There's a meeting tonight. There's the Global Compassion Network. This is your incredible network that is deconstructing the issues in a not only a socio-political way, but in a spiritual soul way, which is what we need as well. So I had
Mhm.
this incredible sense, as I kept saying to my husband, I said, well, I got to get everything out of the way because I have to listen to bio. So I'm feeling I have got to continue to hope. I have got to continue to have faith, because what we all went through with slavery of all kinds on every continent, and all of those things are all of our ancestors. We are here for this moment to indeed make do and then make right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama Brenda. Thank you so much for that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for landing us in that place. I feel invited to to speak and say that it is true that grief is not complete all by itself.
Mm,
When we take grief and we deify it and we make it monolithic, then it becomes despair.
mhm,
But taking grief seriously is noticing that it has always been an ally of joy, not
mhm,
an alternative to joy, but an
mhm,
ally with joy. That to really hold grief is to hold the very conditions and possibilities for joy at the same time, right? Joy is a minor gesture in grief, and grief is a minor gesture in joy. It's when we codify it, diagnose it, pathologize it, close it in, that it becomes despair. The same thing is with hope, that when we treat hope as this positivist psychological highway that leads to utopia, in which nothing else must straddle the lines of its continuity, then we get lost in a positivity that does not know how to be in the moment, right? And the alternative is not negativity. It's just being sensuously alive to the moment and how we're being called to be available. So yes, um, to hold grief is to hold joy, right? Is to hold the incompleteness of the twain together. Thank you, Mama Brenda. I would love to sit in on those Philadelphians for Democracy meetings somehow. Um, Felicitas? Did I get that right?
Yes, you got that right, Felicitas.
Nailed
Hi.
it.
Hey.
I
I'm a little nervous, and I usually don't speak in front of crowds, but something compelled me to speak up today with your invitation. Um, we did a Wachuma ceremony here. I live near the New York City area. We did a Wachuma ceremony on the equinox, so last Saturday.
Okay. Okay.
For those who don't know, it's a plant medicine coming to us from Peru, from the Sacred Valley. And we have beautiful people here from Peru who the whole day was about ritual. They dug a hole in the soil. They brought things from Peru, seeds. We picked flowers. We blessed the flowers. We buried them. Then it was very simple. It reminded me of being a child and of doing things that don't seem maybe productive, but then in the end they were beyond. We learned how to grieve together. We learned how to pray for those of us who were grieving. And the day taught me two things. It was the day of the equinox, so it was a lot about balance. And one thing that I learned was that we all hold the same pain. It manifests differently in each of us, but it's about a balance of giving and receiving love. And so that was one lesson. And the other was instead of like focusing on everything that's wrong with the world, to ask ourselves more beautiful questions. And I've been waking up in the morning, and the first thing I ask myself is, what would love do today? And so these are really two very profound things shifts I've been left with. Thank you.
Thank you, Felicitas. Where did you say you're at now? Where you're at?
I'm in Greenwich, Connecticut, outside of New York City.
Connecticut. So not too far from here.
Yeah, I went up to see you last year, so not a bad drive.
Thank you, sister. I'm reminded of this story that I was told many years ago. No, not too many years ago, like maybe 2023. I was at Mass Mocha, this artist place in somewhere in Massachusetts, in North Adams, I think. And I was with a sister, and she told me a story about neurodivergence. They were having ritual and ceremony, and it involved picking stones and arranging stones in a particular order on the ground. They needed the stones for the ritual. It's just the thing to do for this ceremony. But there was a little girl in their midst, and she would take, as they dropped the stones, she would take the stones, some of the stones that they had put there, and she would take it out and throw it away. Now, everyone knew she was autistic. And so they tried to come to terms with what she was doing without it being abrasive. Like, we need to get ahead with this ceremony. You're kind of disrupting the flow by taking out the stones that we're putting down. And she explained to them in this way. She took one of the stones that she picked and put in place of the stones that she had thrown away, and she held it to her ears and said, "You have to pick the ones that sing." Right. You have to pick the ones that sing. Right. And I'll never forget that story. It still gives me goosebumps because, of course, neurotypicality shuts down, a lot of the world and names its tiny orbit, in the names of safety or in the names of identity and in other senses that fundamental and essentializing senses that shut things down. So when you tell me about the things you're doing and all of that, I feel, of course, we have to do ceremony now. These are the days of ceremony, but ceremony itself has to be alive, to what the world is inviting us to be. We have to look for the stones that sing. And maybe we can't hear it, but that's what the work of parapolitics is, to get strange enough to hear stones sing, right? I don't know if you know this part in the Bible where the Christ is on a donkey or something like that, and I can't remember the scene itself, but he chastises his disciples from stopping people from worshiping him or praising him, and he said, if he stops them, the stones will sing. Maybe he too could hear stones singing, right? The stones will sing. If you don't praise, the stones will praise. I feel we're in a time where we have to learn how to sing and listen to the choirs of geopolitics or geopoetics or stones and rocks and things that are supposedly dead. Only then would we know that causality in the linear way we think about it, right? The cause and effect. As my sister says, Nora Bateson, that cause and effect is a criminal enterprise. The world doesn't work in straight lines. The world dances. right? And when we come at it in the straight line, we only resuscitate and revitalize the logic of containment. Now we have to go para. We have to come through the side and we have to listen to stones that sing. And then maybe ceremony can invite new worlds to happen. Just thinking with you, Felicitas. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. And yes, I thank you for sharing, everyone. Let's go into breakouts now. And I want this is the invitation. The invitation is what else is emerging? Not only from what you've heard from Anasuya, my sister, Mama Brenda, Julie, and Felicitas, but from your own lives. What are you paying attention to? It's not a phrase I use a lot. I don't think we pay attention. I feel that we are enlisted by the attentional, but I'll speak about that in a recording that I will make for the class. Okay. But that's a different matter. But what are you noticing? What questions are emerging from the first 4 sessions we've had together? Let's have a conversation about that and come back with material to have even richer dives into the space. And then I would do something on harm and speculation and some themes and concepts that I've been developing to meet these moments. Okay, so that's what we'll do. Felicitas, I can't help but see what you're eating. It looks very delicious. I'm hungry. So yes, I just wanted to point that out. And you didn't invite a brother to eat with you, which is something oh, there you go. No, I mean me, not that brother, this brother here. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's go. Is my sister Wei here and Lisa? Can we take people into groups of 3s or 4s? Is this possible?
Yep. Yep. I'll do
Okay.
that right now.
All right, Lisa. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
And then we'll be back in 10 minutes. Let's just play with questions. What is exciting, disturbing, infuriating, confusing, inviting, and accessible, available for you to talk about now? Yeah. And we'll meet back in 10 minutes.
Else. Wait, mute.
How is it? How is it, Mama Brenda?
I just, as I said to Lena and Wani, I wish that, I love Zoom, but oh, how much I want to just be breathing the air that all of you are breathing. I want that so much, So I'm just, no, but it's so good, Dr. Bio. It's so good to be here with you in this group. I would, none of us would ever know each other any other way. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just to feel some what is let me see if my siblings are back. Okay, so we're coming back. If something is emerging for you or came from that conversation you just had, something is crystallized into an inquiry or just something to be said, please don't feel shy to raise your digital hand. It's free of charge. And to raise that one and keep it up there if you want to. And let's just have a chat for a moment before I dive into some material that I feel is really important to get through. Yeah. So who would like to go? My dear sister, Erica. And Rainey has her hand up here. Where? Okay, Erica, you go.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that overwhelm, that fear and rage that we all sort of sit in when we're watching the world happen.
Yep.
And how those little forests, those little sanctuaries are popping up more now than they were 2 or 3 years ago. It's a growing need. And even though we're not sitting in belonging, stretching out into the unknown, and instead we're sitting in the unknown, clutching and desperately reaching for sanctuary, it's easier now. We have to remember it's still hard, but it's getting easier the more we do it. So I'm just trying to inject some hope.
Thank you, Erica. There is a question that it doesn't need to be answered, but do you sometimes feel a sense of guilt if you're not doing something about it? I'm just going to leave that as generically, as amorphously as you can land, doing something about it. Do you feel a sense of guilt? Like I should be doing more. Do you feel that, Erica? You do? Do you want to say something about that?
I don't know how encultured that is. If you see something, do something feeling.
Very TSA who are
Very
not
much,
who are not
very much. It's also
the Western.
really foundational that you have to be certain it's the right thing and that you can,
Mhm.
as a single person, be certain what the right thing is. So there, the guilt that comes out of it is, I think, a lot in that same might is right kind of theme.
Yes, yes, yes. There's a lot to be said about that, and I'm also addressing that in a recorded video. Because there's a lot that wants to be said that cannot fit into the series, which is limited. But I want to say, I forget her name, a researcher who writes about indifference and how indifference is pathologized in modernity, right? It's a binary system. It's you're either part of the problem or you're solving the problem. And if you're not doing something about it, you're part of the problem. There's nothing more, what's as dangerous? What's as dangerous? Let me put it this way. What is as dangerous as not doing something about it? It's the logic that you must do something about it. It's that idea that it comes down to you. It's very liberal humanist. We're entrained by ads, by schooling, by the habituations of neurotypicality, by whiteness, to think that if it doesn't come down to you and your agency, if you're not doing something about it, you're indifferent. So this author writes about indifference by hyphenating the word, by putting a hyphen between in and difference, saying that we are indifference. We are in a world that constantly differentiates itself. And that means some bodies are not available all the time. And that may be scandalous to our ideas of everyone must be involved. But that notion of everyone must be involved is part and parcel of, is part of the reason why we feel stuck. But I'll say more about that later. Rini, there you go.
Hi, Bio. I met you a couple years ago at McAllister
I
College.
remember,
So,
I remember, I
oh,
remember.
oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you remember. Thank you for this, and I'd been working a lot before, so I have. This is one of the first times I've been here live, but I've been following the video
Okay.
recordings. So, I don't. I've been feeling extremely inarticulate lately, so pardon me of how I don't know how to explain this, but I've been thinking about the boundaries, the binding, the territories, the membranes, even the demo decks that you talked about on the face, and the democratic citizen, the citizen body, is it? The citizen body. And then so
Yes,
when Sister Anaisuya was talking about Cuba and Burkina Faso, and you meant Nigeria, it
yes,
like in and what's happening in Cuba particularly right now, I'm thinking about that the binding of the nation state and how we're able to say these are a people or a group of people, and therefore this action or this um, position will be
it's
taken.
theirs. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And because when Sister Anasuya was talking about Cuba, I was thinking about all the sort of it's absolutely the case what's happening in Cuba. I was there years ago and I'm really feeling this as well. I worked really closely with people there. But I was thinking about the sort of leakage of how many people and how many bodies around the world this is happening to that aren't bound in a membrane that we can clearly define
Hmm.
as a nation or a people. And I, and those are the bodies that seem to kind of get lost in these conversations when we talk in binding terms. Um, and I think they're the ones that are sort of invisibilized in in all of our talking points.
Yes.
Um, and possibly that comes from to like me being, I mean, I'm mixed. I've never felt like I belonged to a group. And when you were talking about these are the days of ceremony, that's one of the biggest sadnesses that I have personally is that I think that just because of the coming from two different my ancestors come from mostly two different continents and then arrived here somehow in the United States and those ceremonies I think got stolen from or they stopped being ceremonies and so I'm again I don't know what I'm saying exactly but I'm just thinking about the porous membranes and the places in which invisibility and then therefore forgetting, I think, happens.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Sister, thank you. Thank you. And you know how I think about ceremony? For years now, I've considered this that ceremony is a kind of a binding too. It's how we tend to a binding. It's how we tend to identity. It's how we tend to continuity. It's how we invite bodies to keep being entrained in particular pathways, right? But when settlement becomes unsettled, then what is ceremony? What is the ontology of ceremony when the settled becomes unsettled? I think that we can draw a lot of lessons from the experiences, the writings, the histories of the bodies that were kidnapped from the African continent during the transatlantic slave trade, right? They were taken away from ceremony, they were taken away from names, they were taken away from their sense of the political, and they were taken across the Atlantic into the mist. They did not know where they were landing, right? But there and then in the plantation, not outside the plantation in a condom in condos, right? In the plantation, in the conditions of oppression. Within those conditions, they forged experiments. They syncretized religions. They brought together new names. They hid their gods under the names of their masters. They used fugitivity to disturb the mastery of coloniality. And I think that's what we have to do now. Where ceremony is missing, we have to convene different kinds of ceremonies that know how to persist in indeterminacy and not knowing. And maybe that's our work here now. Yes. Yes. The ceremony that doesn't know, the ceremony that doesn't that has to respond when the binding is becoming less tensile and it's losing its sterility and its holding capacity. Then we need ceremonies of inquiry. Yes, I think. And it's just a thinking.
Thank you so much.
Of course, sister. Thank you. Thank you. This feels important to say in this conversation. Bernard?
Yes, I'm sharing the story I just shared in the workout session, and I don't know whether my sister will like it or not, but I was thinking for a long time about the liminal space you
Yes.
mentioned once in a while, and I
Mm-hmm.
was asking what does it mean? So how can I kind of feel it, or how can I get an idea about that? And the thing I made up first is liminal space is a space. Liminal comes from limes, as I guess, from limes, which is the border. So, and that's what
Okay.
when I was a little child, I drove with my parents from Germany to Denmark, and we left the Germany, and then in this space in between, before the sign was here, this is Denmark, this room in between. So as
Yes.
kids, we have been very happy, you know, to be in this room. Oh, we are in nowhere land, but it
Yes.
felt quite well. Last weekend, I visited my sister, and she's actually caught by the illness ALS. So she lost her voice 1.5 years ago, and she she decided to going to die, not eating and not drinking anymore. So, and last weekend, I have been there, and she puts everything in a tablet. She writes the sentences and the thoughts she has in a tablet, and she shows up, and then she puts on a button, and this thing is read then. So there was this question, this very simple question, because you cannot express a lot of feelings with the tablet and not being able to talk.
Indeed.
And then she asked me, "Why are you here?" Which was a very straight question. And then I said, "Because I want to say goodbye to you." And 4 hours later, we did that. We said goodbye to one another. And from my feeling, whenever I go back into this very, very moment, I feel like this is maybe the liminal space, because you don't have a hold, you don't have going forth or going back. I'm jumping out of that space immediately to say, you know, how strong she is and how wonderful she does it. She goes with a distinction and all that. But if I'm going exactly in this room, I feel maybe this is a liminal space.
Such a profound story, brother, that you share. And yeah, I would say that it's hard to think about liminality except as a betweenness, right? It's right there in the etymology of the word. We want to think about the liminal as somewhere between. At the same time, betweenness could be part of the structure. Betweenness, there's a point at which you say you get to the pre-clearance section in the Dubai airport, the US pre-clearance. There's a point between the moment when you submit your passport and when the official says, "Welcome to the United States," even though you're still in Dubai, or even though you're still, in the Middle East, they say, "Welcome to the United States." It feels like a between space, and yet that between space has been claimed by the algorithm, right? The betweenness of it has already been claimed. So I would like to push even further and say liminality is not just between us. Liminality is when systems buckle under the weight of their own algorithms, when they don't know what to do, when systems do not know how to articulate what comes next. You can think about liminality as a glitch, right? So the betweenness could show up anywhere. It could be in just in that point between when the president of the United States holds the pen above a new piece of legislation and just before he signs it. And that space between is engulfed and filled and engorged with pause. And even him is wondering, wait a minute, what am I actually consenting to? Right? This betweenness is everywhere. It shows up as cracks, is how I think about it. But you're right in exploring liminality as that moment between you and your sister. as when you look at each other and something else emerges. Yes, yes. But it needed to be said, it goes beyond just structural betweenness. It's not that liminality is something in the middle, it's how the middle is everywhere, how the edges are everywhere. That feels important to say. And thank you for sharing that story. It was really profound to hear that. Thank you. Thank you. My brother Barack.
Thank you. I'm in the Twin Cities. There's a moment of consistent disruptions and ruptures,
Right.
and not always feeling like I can hold it.
Yeah.
Nor should I.
Right.
As you were speaking before, just about let it decompose, let it fall apart. So I think there are a couple of things that come to mind, but the first in relationship to the group I was within is that ultimately about what it means to really hold and shape and cultivate intentional community at this moment that can hold and be inside the complexities and nuances and entanglement. I don't know if I can hold space to be an intentional community of folks who aren't can hold that with me right now. I'll just be honest. And in the labor and in the exhaustion of being Black and queer and disabled and otherwise, I don't know if I can continue to offer my labor to continue to educate folks to come inside that entanglement. Just want to be honest with that. And to say that we're still inside the rupture of George Floyd, we're still inside the
Yes.
ruptures
Yeah.
that ruptured and disrupted Minnesota niceties, and it's called us to become a parent and to attend to that which we cannot numb ourselves from anymore.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so I think I'm just trying to hold that, and I think this space offers the poetics for us to consider possibilities of holding that, not just in this kind of tangible terror and violence. The poetics hold us to consider possibilities. And I
Yeah.
say inside the poetics that I'm also mindful, I feel like I need to say this moment is that not just Blackness, but disability is not, as it has been, always in relationship to death. Because I keep feeling like in the liminal space and in the way you talk about proximity to death, that disability and the ways it's perceived and is a relationship that is so close to death. I turn to Kevin Kwashi and the poetics of Black aliveness to also say it is also about the very much aliveness that is awakened. And so inside this intentional community that I'm holding, and there's some folks in this room I'm holding it with, I'm seeking to hold that space of complexity entanglement that calls for us to continue to move away from the numbness and the terror and into this aliveness of being, and however that is, and however messy that is. I think, and the ghost light reminds me that we can hold that space,
Right.
that there's
Right.
space for darkness and liminality, and that those things that emerge are there and will always be there. As Black folk and Black and queer folk and Black and brown disabled and women and folks have been holding this. This is not new. It's just become more apparent. It's just become more apparent to others who have not been holding it and have not articulated it. And I think the last thing to say is just something you said about attention. I'm reminded of Adrienne Maree Brown. I believe it's Adrienne Maree Brown who said, "What you pay attention to grows." And I think attention versus consumption, because I feel like there is a rapture of involuntary consumption. This consumption is overpowering and available and always available, particularly in the centering whiteness. It feels like consumption. And so I'm being about very intentionally attending to that, which is not that. I'm attending to that and seeking to attend to that, which does not allow me to continue to just consume it and overtake it, but rather just reveal something I can listen to and take in and care for and be inside His grace. And that is what I offer.
Oh, Father, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. You've just given me an idea. I think I'm going to get Adrian to, I'm just going to call her and we're going to record a session together for the class. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to, yeah, let's just talk about attention or Octavia Butler or something. So I'll do that. I'll do that. I have a couple of more recordings to do, but I want to ask a question, brother. It's who are your folks? Who are the folks? Who are your people? When you speak about community, who do you think that refers to at this time?
Um, I mean, I think that's hard. I mean, I think I was just in San Francisco because I was like, they're my friends who are my community. Uh, I think, and yeah, it's definitely not, as we talk about, it's not locality and not proximity necessarily at this time. There's some folks. It's like it's like the folks who are inside the entanglement with me, um, and are just holding it. And they're also at times falling apart and I'm holding them. As I can fall apart and they can hold me. I think that's the moment I'll say. But I also say that bringing up in terms politically around Crip and otherwise, I agree with Mia Mingus and this concept and framing of access intimacy as actually the very much core of what I believe. Access intimacy. Those who can live inside the access intimacy with me, that I don't always have to always fully explain myself and fully articulate myself, that they know and they get it. It's a physical knowing, and it's not. And that's the thing I was speaking with someone yesterday about. It is not an intellectual knowing. It's an
Hmm.
embodied, physical knowing that does not always call me in to have to articulate every damn thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just know.
Yes.
And I think ultimately those are the folks that I'm desiring to be in, even inside the tension, that they just will know. And
Yes.
and I don't think that's magic, or I
Yeah.
think that perhaps the spirit. I think I think is that they know, and that I do not feel like I'm always in a space that I can actually be inside a messy, awkward, off-centered,
Hmm.
faltering
Hmm.
state with.
No, no, no.
And and I'll say lastly that, it's also a great thinker and body performance artist who's Lori Carlos, who did work and seminal work around performance, is that is actually in that faltering imbalance place you find oneself is not about the balance. So actually in this imbalance, we're in this entanglement, we're a constant space of imbalance. And we
Yeah.
are finding our truths inside of that. And I think those are folks I want to be in community with.
Yes. Yes, bro. Yes. I hear you. I hear you. And I say this with uh, a brotherly sibling like feeling together with that yes, we do need community. And yes, we need the kind of knowing that already knows, right? That doesn't require a glossary or a course of explanations. Um, we need a knowing that is deep and persistent and holds us in our unwieldiness. I just don't know if I can trust that this holding is uniquely reducible to the humans that we name as folks, to the people that fit our familiar patterns of who a community member could look like. I think we're holding a lot because we've been taught to hold a lot. And we've been taught to sense the world in particular ways that rules out too much. I think that we are being spirited away right now, and we have to train our senses differently to notice how we are already being held, even by things that don't know how to speak back to us, even by ancestors that we will often rule out or just relegate to the romantic. My ancestor holds me, or something like that. But how is that real? How are we being held by plants, by ecologies, by things we don't know how to name, by trees, it seems. Someone is writing there. And I feel blackness wants to play. It wants to play beyond the places we've trapped it in. And I don't say we as humans, that the specific arrangements have trapped it in. It's ashe. Blackness is what the Yoruba people call ashe. It wants to do something else, but it's trapped in the NASCAR stadium of going around in circles and identifying the usual parameters that we're used to. I think there's a lot more generosity and abundance if only we know how to stay there and look, right? And I feel that maybe that's what this is about. Not a gift of answers, but a gift of provocations that asks, what are we tethered to? What are we anchored to? And what other ways of being together in community exceeds intentions and exceeds our map-making capacities? Brother, I feel you're held, and I feel you will continue to be held. And I feel that your tears or your almost tears are evidence of the ancestral, of the liminal, of the bacterial, of the fungal that surrounds you, and that our humanities and our best politics do not know how to entertain or to hold or to make room for. And that is why we're doing this. That's why we're breaking sensibility so that we can sense the generosity and the treasures that are already here. Martin Luther King asked the same question. Who will hold us? Where do we go after this? Wilderson asked the same question with Afro-pessimism. We're continually asking who will be with us, who will hold us at this time of fire. And I think the answers are being born. The gods are being born right now. Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to do those slides. No way am I going to do those slides. It's 10 minutes to time. Wait, Professor, wait, when we're doing this again, we really have to go beyond, if it were possible, to go beyond 90 minutes. I will do another session. I'll record it. It's easy for me to do another session, just bringing those conversations to a close. But Yolanda's digital hand is up. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
I know.
Okay.
Right now, I'm sorry. I entered almost an hour, I guess an hour later because of the time change. I'm connecting from Spain, so I entered my 6:30, but I think it was already your 7:30.
Sorry about that time, and
But
it's
I didn't, I was not here. I just was here like the last 15, 20 minutes, I think.
right,
But
right.
I wanted to bring something that has been a very intense, emotional week. Not but for nothing special. I was just feeling it in my body. And I think I said before that I was doing a research about the 80s and the music in the 80s. I just want to bring that still magic. There's a moment that I have been really deep, pessimistic, even within the research that I have been doing, magical research. I was researching the 80s and the music in the 80s, and then I went to a music that is supposed to be in Stranger Things, and I lived this music like when I was young and when I was 17 years old. And then it was a name in the comments on the black box of YouTube, and I researched and I said, okay, oh, this seems interesting. And it was supposed to be a quote of someone that I had no idea. So I searched for this online. And I didn't have any question about what I was taping. And I said, Mark Schiffer. And I don't know where the name came from because it has nothing to do with the name that it was in the toolbox, in the black box of YouTube. This guy seems to be one of the amazing psychologists of Britain that talk about, I mean, actually intersect with your thought, right?
Mm.
In many ways, which I am deeply interested. And it was so amazing because it was exactly talking about the 80s and about exactly what was happening during the 80s. And
Mm.
there was all this magic that I was guided, I was taken, I was enlisted, but something that it has nothing to do with the 80s, maybe, but there's something in the world that today, especially this morning, it gave me hope that I didn't have hope 2 days ago. And it's a hope that is not a wishy washy hope. It is all of a sudden something has taken me and it made clear for me that is possible. You know, even though I'm just like taking this energy of the 80s that everything was possible and everything was like, and then we enter into individualism and neoliberalism and capitalism and all of that. Okay, I agree with that. However, there is something, there's a current that is, I don't want to say magical because it's so shallow in the expression.
Mm.
There's
Mm.
something deeper that is taking me. Is taking me.
Yes.
It's taking me in a way that is like, okay, I have to do this. You know,
Yes.
this is a real call. Has nothing to do with my success. It has nothing to do with my relationship. It is like that community that you were saying, that who is your community? My
Yes.
community is someone that is my tree that I have down here,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
constantly communicating to me, but it's also the internet is communicating with me in
Yes.
unexpected ways, and
Yes.
this conversation right now. So I just wanted to bring that sense of
I feel
that's
it.
beyond hope. It is there's something there that I cannot touch, and it makes me vibrate. That is
I
here.
feel it. I
That
feel
is
it.
here. It is here, and 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 that it brought to me something beautiful this morning that I didn't have yesterday. Yesterday I was kind of like, oh, this is fucking depressing, you know, like there's no door. Okay, I got to go down to the earth. I need to, but I already laid down in there. I already died in many ways. I already died. There's is something else, and I don't know. Today I feel it that way, and I felt that is necessary to communicate it because it is deep. It is real for me right
Dear
now.
sister. Thank you, sister. It is real. It is real. It is real. It's been the vocation of thinkers and poets struggling for language, bending it this way and that to be able to disclose in a way, and that's a clumsy word to even throw around here, disclosure. It's not like it's static and waiting to be discovered. It's the indeterminacy and incompleteness of what the world is still doing and how we become trapped in scrupulous fields of performance that blinds us and obscures the miraculous depths. And this is not to romanticize that either, but the miraculous depths of what the world is becoming. And, I said elsewhere that the accusation of John Wellwood in the 80s, speaking about the 80s, wrote about spiritual bypass. And he was right to identify, the tendency to retreat into a spiritism that avoids, this retreating is an avoidance of the work to be done because the pain and the sorrow and the despair that comes from meeting the monster head on is too much. And so we rush into towers and pretend that that's the work to do. And this is what John Wellwood named as a spiritual bypass. These days, the bypass is described as some kind of accusation. People are accused. It's an accusation. And there's an ableist tone and echo to that accusation that if you are not on this highway, then you're not going to the place we're all heading to. The bypass, however, works alongside with the highway to maintain traffic. That's my grouse. The highway and the bypass are part and parcel of the city. The bypass and the highway maintain, sustain, create, modify traffic. They maintain bodies. So whether you're taking the bypass or you're taking the highway, the city is exhausted. And that's what you're feeling. You're feeling, this way or that, there's something else. And we don't know how to describe it. It's not some magical alien extraterrestrial civilization. It's not some entity to be discovered. It's the sense that we are part of fields that Erin Manning describes as neurotypicality that shapes experience, teaches us what to think, teaches us what to hope for, teaches us who our enemies are and what justice looks like. And this entrainment is an incarceration of some kind. And you're right to gesture for words and not know what to say. So I think that is the gesturing, that is this space, and hopefully beyond this space. But thank you for
Yeah,
trying.
thank you. But it's just a little thing, one more little thing. Where you were talking, or you guys were talking about liminalities and what it means, who is your community,
Yes,
who is the
yes.
community? For me, I think it has to do with something that you have said in the past, has to do with that porosity, that you and me, we become so porous that there's not even space in between, because it's beyond, like, I don't have to say the words because you understand me. No, I want not to understand you if I don't
Yeah,
understand you.
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but I just want to feel that, and it is like to open that space, that there's not the other, that we are the other, right? And
It's
I
already
don't know. I'm
happening.
so excited today. Thank you so much. I'm so sad that I came out to the very
No, no,
last.
no, sister. No, nothing. Everything that you missed is obviously available on the YouTube. You can join that. But definitely we are a mass disabling event is spilling and creeping into the city, and we are being enlisted in other ways. And that enlistment is what we stay with. So thank you, Yolanda. And thank you, my brother Barack, and thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Erica. All the names I see on my screen. Thank you, everyone